Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the time is nigh. Yes, the Wuthering Waves anniversary is coming up very, very, very soon. And it's fair to say that the anniversary is something in Wuthering Waves that is both like a good thing and a bad thing for a lot of players. I think the bad aspects of, the bad connotation of an anniversary definitely do stem from the first one that the game ever had, especially due to some sort of like imbalanced expectations from the community, and of course some misinformation from content creators, as well as, well, the main thing being we didn't get a free 5-star unit. However, what we did get during the first anniversary of the game, 2.3's anniversary, was, let's just be honest here, a fuck ton of pulls. Game 8, a company over here that does like website compilations and stuff, actually took a look at the full overall rewards of the very first anniversary, how many pulls people could get, and basically the count was 52 limited character pulls, 32 standard pulls, I don't even know where those fucking came from, to be honest, 17 weapon pulls, and then around 10,000 astrite, not counting a story. And so most people can take a look at numbers like these and realize, oh my gosh, that's basically like almost enough to like full pity a character. And the realization from a lot of individuals was that, oh, the anniversary was a good bit generous. However, that generosity did not come at like the first overall on the first overall announcement. It was something that kind of got concluded after this apology that Kuro Games made to the player base. We all remember this one from 11 months ago regarding the version 2.3 preview special broadcast to our dear rovers, blah blah blah. We received plenty of suggestions, thoughts, and criticisms. Our roadmap for the recent Wuthering Waves version allocated development resources to an anniversary experience in 2.3 that is both relaxing and entertaining. However, this allocation did not meet our rovers' expectations for an anniversary celebration. Then they fell short on the broadcast, blah, blah, blah. They basically apologized for the quality of the broadcast and then announced 10 pulls, 10 weapon pulls, and then 10 standard pulls down here. And when you take a look at overall what was available during this anniversary, it becomes pretty obvious, damn, this was actually one of the most generous ones ever. However, when expectations, like I said before, due to like some faulty leaks, due to content creators that were openly looking at those faulty leaks and then, trying to spread misinformation, a lot of people thought we were getting free things like a free Gion, a free Yinlin, a free weapon, a free String Master, stuff like that. And that's where stuff really hit the fan. And today, we're here to talk about the anniversary, the upcoming one, and the expectations that I feel like are reasonable to set across the player base, knowing that Kuro Games has apologized over here, and then also knowing that Kuro's already sort of like shown their hand when it comes to how generous they're going to be once a year. And so the title might be a little bit clickbait, because that's what a lot of people are expecting. So let's go ahead and talk about that piece first. No, ladies and gentlemen, I am personally of the opinion that expecting a free Hiyuki or even a free Denya is something that you should probably keep in your dreams and not actually try to speak into reality. Yes, a lot of people thought that we were going to get a free Zani or a free Chikona during the 2.3 anniversary. That doesn't really make that much sense for them to give out the new on-banner unit. However, as we're heading into the second anniversary and we're also, taking a look at the expanded roster, well, ladies and gentlemen, I think there are a fair number of characters that honestly should be back on the table and should be thought about as a potential free reward. If we go ahead and we look at basically any 1.x unit, what's one thing that we can realize? Let's just take a look at Gion over here. When was the last time that Gion was reran? He was featured in 3 event convenes. 2.3. When was a character like Jinsei last reran? Let's just take a look over here. Oh. 2.3. You're noticing a bit of a trend, especially for the older members of the roster. None of these units have reran a single time since last year's anniversary. And the list is actually impressively massive. Has Jeja been stuck as well? Yeah, Jeja, the last time she reran was 2.32. You're probably getting the gist of what I'm talking about right now. I think Kuro Games is at the point where they've already played their hand. None of these characters, right? Some of the more outdated ones, some of the older members of the roster, none of them have reran since last year's anniversary. Not a single one. And the decision that probably makes the most sense at this point would be some of these characters, right? Those that were appearing on these banners. Specifically, this massive banner over here, right? Which you had out to like 5 separate characters on both halves, as well as their weapon. I wouldn't be surprised if selections like Jian, Yinlin, Jeja, Zhang Liao, Jinxie, Carlotta, sorry, not Carlotta, Chang Li. I wouldn't be surprised if all of these units were offered for free alongside Camellia, as well as their signature too. You might be able to choose one of these free units, right? Among these alongside Camellia and one free signature. And if that's the case, I think that that's the move that makes the most sense. Because even Kuro themselves isn't trying to sell or profit off of any of these units anymore. Like I mentioned, these are all older members of the roster. You can only see them on your character list by scrolling all the way down. And I'm personally of the opinion that A, they've made it impossible to actually pull their sequence nodes too if you're a fan of them. And B, they haven't even tried to see how popular they are. What else could they reasonably do? The other thing that might be done, what if these units are like added to the standard banner or something? That would be crazy. I don't think that could actually happen, but I feel like there needs to be like some sort of alternative, or there needs to be like some sort of like realization that A, you haven't reran these units in a year. They're not scheduled to rerun at any point. And so what method is there actually going to be to acquire any of these characters? Maybe they go on something akin to like the Chronicled Wish banner in Genshin. And then they're on like a Huang Long banner or some shit. Maybe that's what occurs. But the thing is that we need some sort of way to actually figure out what's going on over here, because this actually looks like one of the biggest gaps in the roster that I see at this point. I 100% believe that we're going to get a copy of these guys for free. It wouldn't really make sense if we didn't, because what the fuck else are they currently doing in the game? What are they doing in the game? The alternative, though, could be this. All of these characters could possibly get a buff. And I think that there would be a lot of justification for all of these units getting a buff as well, because they haven't ran for over a year. That could be something, too. Maybe it's like a legal thing. Maybe it's like, I don't know, they had to like, sign off on this with like the fucking Chinese government. Maybe having a whole year where they weren't available for sale means that they're eligible for a buff or some shit like that. I don't know how the gacha rules work. That could be one way for them to start rerunning these units as well. And then obviously, right, start getting people to pull them and actually spend the pulls for them. Because what's one thing that Kuro Games has already done? In the end state matrix mode, all of these underpowered units, right, they receive a bit of a, well, enhancement in this endgame mode. This obviously means that Kuro hasn't forgotten them, right? While these buffs are one of the most uncreative pieces of garbage that I've ever seen. Oh, just deal 25% more total damage, right? While these characters are obviously still getting at least a little bit of attention and recognition, it's clear that the buffs are very crazy. But it's not like Kuro has straight up abandoned them either. And that's something that I think is really important to keep top of mind. And I really hope that people are able to set their expectations a bit more reasonably when it comes to when it comes to that. Now, though, you might be wondering, what about all the other characters, Saint? Right? There are still a couple of units that you didn't mention over here. I don't think Shorekeeper is going to ever be free. I don't think Shorekeeper is actually going to be on that selector that I'm talking about before. And the reason is simple, because she's still good, because she's still a top tier pick, and she's still like a tier 0 unit that is a best in slot on a bunch of different teams. Shorekeeper also reran already in version 2.6, and she's frequently available on like the beginner banner and stuff like that, right? So a lot of people already do have her. A lot of people already prioritize her. Now, this is where stuff's going to get a little bit interesting. We still need the lineup for this anniversary banner over here. And I think it's going to be very simple. We're probably going to have units like Carlotta. We're not going to have Phoebe or Zani. We might have like Cantarella, Rosia, Chacona, Cardathea, Frolova, all of these guys. But what's obvious by now is that we don't have enough slots even on a full, you know, like 10 slotted banner over here to cover everybody, because the game's gotten a lot more units. That much is obvious, right? So maybe Kuro's gonna go for 3 separate banners. Maybe Kuro's just gonna have like 7 characters available on each phase and just go for 14 on both sides. But what I think is going to be 100% occurring is that we're gonna have the ability for people to pull Imith, and then also the ability for people to pull Cardathea. Because let's just be honest here, they're 2 of the most popular units in the game, and I'm pretty sure the Lahai Roy story and all of that is gonna end up concluding. That's it for the banner expectations. I don't expect like too much like crazy levels of like variability here. It would make the most sense if that's what they decide to do, especially knowing that Denya is a fusion burst support. I wouldn't be surprised if Imith shows up on like the second half to make up for that. Now, though, we need to start talking a little bit about the rewards and the events. So another big thing about the anniversary is that I feel like the theme of it has already been a bit spoiled. I think that this is going to be the anniversary. I'm not joking. Kuro has done so much fucking advertising focused around this, like, you know, Kamul, the meme Camellia. And what better way to tie everything together than to have a 1.x selector where Camellia is available? Wouldn't that kind of feed into the crazy amount of advertising that they've done thus far focused around this unit and focused around this meme? Bro, they have like 30 different things. They had like the April... Like, let's just look it up, bro. Let's just look up the Wuthering Waves most recent video over here. Man, nobody's watching this Sagrika shit. Get this shit out of here. What the fuck is this? Look at how much of a focus they've had on this unit. They even referenced the prior anniversary over here where we had that cube event. The anniversary is meant to be kind of like a silly, goofy, fun celebration time, right? Who would be surprised if this is the theme of it? And what better way to cap it off than to actually have the ability to get Camellia for free at the same time by doing all of the events there? Because what's a fact about Camellia, guys? Dude, I don't think Camellia has reran since version 2.2. I'm gonna be honest, I might need to double check or fact check that. I don't think she's reran since 2.2, the patch before the anniversary. So why would there be this much of a focus on a fucking unit who hasn't reran since before the anniversary of last year, unless there was going to be some way to get her for free? That's my personal thought. I feel like it makes a decent amount of sense. We'll just have to see what's going on. Alongside that, though, there was actually a lot of shit that happened in the anniversary. A lot of different events, right? You had like the Cube, Cubic, and Cubie, a lot of like Cube-related stuff, a bunch of login events, and then we might as well just take the time to talk about the most dramatic one of all, the Gilded Night Market. Yes, the event that many creators decided to be massive hypocrites about, where you had to make the awful decision of like spending 50 pulls in the version or something like that to get like, well, tuners, echo modifiers, and like 10 total pulls from here. So this is the reality for, I think, any individual who actually played during the anniversary and saw how many rewards there were. Yeah, so if you just pulled with the rewards that you got during the anniversary, you would have like pretty much capped this thing out. You would have pretty much capped this thing out. And if we're in the situation where you're deciding to say, oh, I don't want Denya, and I also don't want Hiyuki, so the Gilded Night Market event is going to be giga predatory because they're asking me to spend pulls. I also, on top of that, right, I also don't want to pull any of the characters that are going to be on the big rerun banner too. So there's like 15 available characters and banners. I don't want to pull anybody. And so this event is predatory. Yeah, if that's the mindset that you have, that like you're just never gonna pull and you're just waiting for like you're waiting until 2027 to start using your pulls, well, this is the mindset that I'll ask you to go with. What do you need to do in this game to get pulls from the Coral Shop? If you don't pull every version, to some degree, you actually can't get these from the store. Did you know that? You can't get all 21 of these from the store unless you pull at least a little bit every version. Or you save up, but as you're saving up, right, you're going to miss out on all of these. Gilded Night Market essentially functions in almost the exact same way as this shit. And it's fair to say, right, some people might be like, oh, they're saving up for the collab. Great. The collab hasn't been announced. Nobody knows who's even in the collab. There have been leaks, but who knows if those are actually real. Hey, guess who I'm waiting for? Guess Yulin. Yeah, so it's Predator. I don't know when the fuck he's going to be released, though. If you're in the mindset of, man, well, I'm never going to pull in this version, then I guess you can say it's predatory. But at the same time, can you also say that the Afterglow Coral Shop is predatory too? Because guess what? If you're not going to pull at all in 3.3 because you're saving for the Cyberpunk collab, I guess you're not going to be able to get these from the shop either. So it's predatory as well, right? Kuro should just remove these. And that's just kind of like the take. I don't think a lot of people can take the criticism for the Gilded Night Market too seriously, understanding that this functions in virtually the exact same fucking way. And when you combine that with the fact, ladies and gentlemen, that WuWa's anniversary gave a metric fuck ton of pulls. What are we doing here? What are we doing here, bro? Like, look at these fucking rewards. Are you telling me that it was predatory to have Gilded Night Market in the same patch where you got this many pulls from, like, basically logging in? Not really. So that's going to be my take when it comes to this event. I think it was the most over-dramatized piece of just ridiculousness that I've ever seen in the space before. And there were a ton of content creators, right, who were, like, you know, getting, like, all up in arms despite talking about how much money they spend on the game. We all know Mr. 7 out of 10, right? There are a lot of people that were up in arms about that entire situation. Don't take them seriously because at the end of the day, you didn't really need that much to max out this event and get at least like 7 out of, like literally 7 out of 10 of the pulls, if not like 8 out of 10 of them. I think you need to pull like 50 times, which is like not even like getting close to guaranteeing a character on one banner to get like 8 out of 10 of them or something like that. And I'm pretty sure Kuro's taken any feedback in particular when it comes to this and probably made some of the limits lower. And they're probably going to put stuff like motorcycle cosmetics or some shit like that at the higher end of the rewards while having like the pulls and stuff lower. That would probably be fair to have as well. And now I guess the last thing when it comes to the anniversary is that we should probably expect some news, right, about this. Because it kind of goes in line with the conversation that we've been having before about the savings and stuff like that. I would not be surprised if we get some news about this thing as well. Because when was the last time we got news about the Cyberpunk collab? It was, I believe, at the end of the anniversary live stream for 2.3. I wouldn't be surprised if WuWa comes out with further details or maybe a preview of what this collab is going to look like in-game, and then maybe announce another collab as well for 2027. That would be something that makes a lot of sense. And I think that that would probably be one of the most intelligent things to do, especially considering the year that you've had cooking this and the year that people have had kind of like anticipating this, knowing that there are 2 kind of like must pull units already available right now. So that is my personal take. And they should also announce whether or not one of the Cyberpunk characters in the collab will be free too. Because, well, guess what, right? When they're looking to kind of like recover from the negative PR of last year's anniversary, and well, the basis in a lot of collabs is to have one of the collab units out of like maybe the 2 or 3 that you have being free, that would be a pretty good way, right, to spice up the anniversary and have it leaving a very positive thought in people's head, especially considering the amount of negativity that was surrounding this anniversary before. So those are my personal things. And so a bit of a wrap up over here, just to like kind of give like a bit of a TLDR. I expect a free 1.x unit and potentially a 1.x unit's weapon, because these units have not re-ran since last year's anniversary, and it's kind of just like, what the fuck are they doing with them right now? Second, if they're not free, maybe reworks to the 1.x units, buffs to them, and then a more regular banner schedule, or maybe they give one for free and then also make the reworks and the buffs as well. That'd be a double whammy. That'd be crazy. Third, when it comes to the actual anniversary banners that we'll have, expect a lot of the 2.x units, as well as naturally some of the 3.x ones. But there were a lot of units released during 2.x. Just know that Phoebe and Zani will not be on the table. Third, when it comes to the theme, I really do think it's going to be in line with like the free. I do think it's going to be in line with this. I think there's a lot of characters here for a reason. They spent a lot of effort, you know, designing so much of this stuff for April Fools. I think this is probably going to be the theme of the anniversary too, because Kuro tends to go for something a little bit silly, and this is, you know, easily the definition of silly. We also got the little 7 out of 10. Huge. Funny, right? And then lastly, when it comes to the events, I expect another big level of generosity when it comes to the pulls, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a combo of a free 5-star. Maybe we won't actually see pull numbers of this amount in this year's anniversary, if we're getting some things like free 5-star units, free 1.x units, stuff like that, because this was a metric fuck ton that we got in last year's. It was clouded by the fact that there were so many people bitching and moaning about the lack of a free 5-star, but the reality was it is possibly one of the most generous patches in gacha history when it comes to how many pulls people were getting. And that's kind of just like a fact. And I think a lot of people might run into a bit of a situation, and maybe this is why they'll keep the pull numbers the same. A lot of people would prefer not getting a free 1.x unit or a free 1.x weapon, and they would just prefer getting more pulls instead. A lot of people would prefer just getting more pulls instead. I'm one of them because I already have every 1.x unit in all of their weapons. I don't really want sequence nodes or an extra copy, so I would prefer getting more pulls. But remember how much people bitched? Remember how much people moaned? Kuro didn't give me a free 5-star. I'm Genizad, and I looked at leaks that were saying I was going to get a free Jian, a free Yinlin, or a free Zhang Liao with their weapons too. But that didn't happen, so I'm going to throw a ruckus right before the anniversary. That's literally what occurred, right? And the reality is that this could be a point of contention that many players are upset about. We'll just have to see what the final numbers actually are. And then when it comes to like a rebate event or the Gilded Night Market, if you're bitching about this one, go bitch about the Afterglow Coral Shop too. Because I don't even fucking care at this point. The amount of people that were schizoing out over this just showed me how pathetic so many of you actually are. Like, oh my god. Oh my god, with 2 brand new must pull characters available and 20 characters on banner, I felt no need to pull anything in this update. And maybe if they do have some sort of rebate event like this, where you're incentivized to pull during the anniversary with a double top-up bonus and all of that shit, maybe in conjunction with the Cyberpunk collab, they announced that a free unit is going to be in the Cyberpunk collab. I don't think anyone can complain about a rebate event at that point. Yeah, if they just tell you that you're already getting one of the Cyberpunk units for free, yeah, I don't think there's anybody that can really bitch and moan about that at all. Because optics do matter. And anyone that's complaining in that situation where they announce a free collab unit or something like that, they're just going to look like a needy bitch. And they're the easiest people to make fun of when it comes to a gacha player base. So yeah, that's going to be my predictions. Those are my takes. Those are my expectations. And like I said before, people were misled by leaks, even like to the weeks leading up to the live stream. So don't be out here saying, oh, well, Saint, your expectations are already wrong because I saw leaks from a very enlightened individual and they told me I'm getting 300 free characters. Everything is subject to change, and I think last year's anniversary is the biggest proof of that. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.